About 10 years ago, I went for a walk in my local reserve. While I was finishing my adventure, I came across an animal I have never seen before. And this is where it happened, right here. It jumped out onto the track in front of me, looked at me for a couple of seconds, and then off it went. I was so amazed by what I'd just seen. Here's this animal I've never seen before. And at that stage, I'd been walking through this reserve for over 20 years, and it's the first time I've ever seen it. It was so exciting and enthralling. I shot home to jump on the internet to find out what its name was and anything else I could find out about it. After some hours, I got a little bit of information. Its name, Agile Antechinus, a small carnivorous marsupial that lives in forested areas, and a little bit about its mating behaviour. That was pretty much it. Well, that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to know more about that animal. So I am going to have to spend a lot more time in this reserve if I want to find it again. It would be another 2 months before I'd have my next encounter. Well, this is where I get my second encounter with the Agile, in an area I call Crossroads. It's at the back of the reserve and it's where all the tracks meet up. Now I saw an Agile climbing this tree and went all the way to the top. That's a height of about 14 metres, and then it jumped over a metre to the next tree. Well, that absolutely amazed me. Here's this small carnivorous marsupial, a little bit bigger than a mouse, jumping with such confidence to the next tree. I was hooked from that time on. I wanted to learn as much about this animal as I possibly could. I wanted to study it, see how it lives its life and how it interacts with other animals and any other thing I could get. I wanted to photograph it and film it. So I sat here in this area for nearly 2 years, waiting for it to turn up every night of the week through stifling heat. Well, what do you do after a hard day at work and 35 degrees? Well, you come down and torture yourself a bit more, don't you? Come down into the forest. Pouring with rain, you name it, whatever nature threw at me, I stayed here waiting for it to turn up. Well, I got little glimpses every now and then of it running across a log, climb up a tree for a little bit, grab a moth or something like that, and then off it'd go. And in all that time, I didn't learn much about it. I couldn't find out where it was coming from, where it was living, in hollows of trees or whatever. I just couldn't find out where they were coming from. And it frustrated me no end. But eventually I got a break, and it happened about 70 metres further into the reserve. Well, across the creek is covered in lush undergrowth, but it never used to be that way. It was covered in blackberries above my head, covering an area of about 2.5 acres, and it was pretty much the same over here. Now, this big wattle tree here has always been of interest to me. It's the oldest in the reserve, but you couldn't get in there. The blackberries were just far too thick. But my luck changed one day when the reserve became part of a scheme to reintroduce the helmeted honeyeater into areas like this. They came in, cleared away all the introduced species, the blackberries and all those sort of things, and then started replanting native plants instead. Well, once they cut down the blackberries in here, that was the first place that I wanted to go and explore. As soon as I walked into this area, my adventure with the Agile began. There was a juvenile male climbing this wattle tree. Now, he was grey in colour, and I watched him climb all the way to the top of the wattle tree. Then he disappeared. Beside me, I noticed another juvenile male. Now, he was a burnt orange in colour. And it was at that moment I realised my education with the Agile had begun. I'd later discovered that there was 8 males in here sharing a nest somewhere in the background. So I decided I'd make a temporary shelter so that I could film them, study them in comfort in all sorts of weather conditions. So for the next 7 months, this is where you would find me, spending every second that I possibly could studying them. Now, they didn't just educate me, they entertained me as well with their antics. Now, the first one that I came across, I named him Arnie because he was at least 20 to 30% bigger than his peers. He ruled the roost here and he educated me on how males interact with each other. Now, when we get to August, that is a breeding season for the Agile. Now, part of the male's biology is that they die. So once they've mated with a few females, these chemicals flood the body and destroy it. So that it's not mating that kills them, it's the chemicals that get them in the end. So I watched them disappear one by one during breeding season. While this was happening, I had cameras out looking for the females so that I could study them, and I struck it lucky. Across the creek, I came across 4 females because of those trail cameras. Well, this is where finally I get to see the female side of the story, and what an amazing experience it has been. Now, there was 4 females regularly coming through here, and they educated me on how they interact with each other and other animals and birds as well. And there was a dominant female in the area I called Cat. And I called her Cat because she used to ambush her peers. She'd get on top of the log here, wait for them to come past, and she'd jump on them to scare them off. Truly an amazing thing to watch. Now, they educated me in so many areas. It's just been amazing. And they took my photography and my filming of wildlife to a whole new level. So I'm very grateful to them for that. I found a few trees where the Agile were nesting, and I got a fair education from them. But I needed to know more. I wanted to know what happened inside the nest. So I built a nesting box so that I could study them in great detail. And it proved to be a huge, fantastic tool to use. I saw how they build a nest, and then how they bring up their young, and then the young finally coming out of the nest and exploring the inside of the nesting box. What amazing footage I've gotten. It's just been an unbelievable experience, a life-changing experience watching, studying the Agile. And it will continue for some years to come. There are still a lot of secrets about the Agile I don't know about yet, but I will keep persevering. So that's all I've got for you today. My story on how I came about finding the Agile and studying them. I've written 2 books about them as well. It's just something I had to do. So yeah, it's been an amazing ride with these guys. Now, I've changed the way I'm making videos. I want to push further into being more professional. So this is what's going to happen in the future. There'll be much more of a documentary style. I'll still be educating you with how to go about photographing and filming wildlife. That won't change, but it's just, I want them to be more documentary style, more dramatic, more educational, more fun to watch. So that I can speed things up to make the documentary that I want to do on this whole reserve and on the Agile Antechinus, because I have really no more excuses not to make it now. I have made a voiceover room, a production studio, so I'm ready to rock and roll with that. So that's it. Now, if you'd like to follow me and see whether I can get to that professional level, click on the subscription button down below and you'll get notification whenever I do anything else. Now, if you want to go and have a look at all the things I've been doing over the years, click on my icon down below, take it to my channel. There's over 80 different videos there to choose from. Me talking about photography tips, using a flash in a forest environment and all sorts of things like that, as well as camera accessory reviews as well. Anything I buy, I'll review it. So if you want to check all that out, go and have a browse. There might be something of interest here. Now just remember, if you don't do, you don't get. So get out there and start photographing and filming wildlife. And I'll catch you on the next one. See ya. Page 2. About 10 years ago, I went for a walk in my local reserve. While I was finishing my adventure, I came across an animal I have never seen before.